Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to This and That Reviews, and buckle up because the amount of movies that I'm going to compare this to, it's going to make your head spin. Thunderbolts. I am a lifelong Marvel fan. I have seen everything that they've made, all of the TV shows, all of the movies, and this is okay. I want to say that this is okay. I think the more I talk about it and the more I think about the movie, it gets worse. And I feel like you need to know what this movie is before you go watch it. And I think that like preparing yourself for knowing what this is going to be, if you don't want to know anything about this movie, then you can leave right now and go watch it. But I think that there is a bit of information that you need to understand going into this movie. It's two things. One is this movie is all about depression, and it's all about like what you do with depression and how you fix it. And so, you know, if that is triggering, that's the entire thesis of this entire movie. And then the second thing that I feel like you need to know going into this movie is that half of this movie is about Valentina Fontaine de Allegra. And I did not expect that. This is a movie with five characters that you are trying to feel are a team. They are the, it's an Avenger type movie. It's a team up movie that we haven't gotten since an Avenger movie. And they're pulling all of these different characters from all of these different franchises, and you don't need to know any of those franchises. Like you don't need to have watched Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second one, right? And you don't need to have, seen all of these different things. It helps. I think Black Widow would help the most if you only wanted to watch one. I think this makes Black Widow even better. I think the more Yelena stuff that we get post the Black Widow movie, the better that movie feels. That movie rubbed me the wrong way like the first time I saw it, because it's titled Black Widow, but it's really just setting up Yelena and Red Guardian to be in the MCU. And so then when she pops up in Hawkeye, like it's like a really cool moment. And when she's in this, it's very cool. And it makes like that movie feel better, right? And so like I think that Black Widow is the main movie if you wanted some amount of homework, but you really don't need to. And a lot of this movie is about Valentina. I want to say half this movie is about Valentina. It's about cutting back to Valentina doing Valentina stuff. And that is my main problem with this movie. The more I think about it, that is like when I boil all of my problems with this movie down to something, it's the idea that Valentina takes up so much of this movie and it feels so unnecessary. There are certain scenes that are obviously very necessary for the plot, but there's also a lot of scenes that do nothing and that go nowhere. And I think if I had to compare this to something else, it would be Avengers 1, where it is a team-up movie. It's essentially this. It's a team-up movie. Nick Fury has recruited all of these people, right? And the biggest part of the movie is the Avengers. It's watching Thor interact with Iron Man, watching Captain America interact with Black Widow, right? It's the interplay, right? But like, let's say there was, like the movie's going along and then all of a sudden it cuts to Nick Fury and, they're checking the fuel on the jet, right? Colby Smulders, go check the fuel. And he's like, right away, Nick Fury. And then, and then you go and she's passing by like a bunch of other S.H.I.E.L.D. employees, and he's like, "Hey, Steve, how are you doing today?" He's like, "Oh, the family's, pretty good." He's like, "Okay, well, what are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm checking the fuel." Okay, well, I'll see you next time. Hopefully a ball game soon. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then, you see Colby Smulders, and then she's like, yeah, the fuel gauge seems to be looking pretty good here. She taps on the thing, and then she's like, all right, I'm going to go back to Nick Fury. And then, you starts walking back, and then it's like, oh, hey, Steve, it's you again. Yeah, I just checked the thing and it's fine. All right, well, ball game next week. We'll see you then. Hey, are you still rooting for the Jets? It's just, and then as this scene is happening in the editing room, they're like, oh, we don't have enough room. We're supposed to have like a Loki Thor interaction right before the big fight, and if we put this scene in, we can't have that. It's like, it's fine. Loki's in this movie like later on in the movie. You don't need to see Thor and Loki interacting right before they're gonna fight with Iron Man and Captain America. Like, we'll just do that later. It's fine. We can just cut that, and we really need this scene in this movie. We need to make sure that Colby Smulders is checking the fuel, because if they get into the if they get into the the helicarrier, if they get into the helicarrier later, and it's not fully fueled, we need to tell the audience that it's fully fueled and that nothing bad will happen, because that sets up the Hulk. And if they have to worry that the fuel might be down, then they won't then the Hulk thing becomes kind of a secondary thing. And so we need this scene in this movie in order for them to not have to fear that they might run out of fuel. And that's what all of the Valentina scenes feel like to me. It's like they were like, they won't understand how Valentina is pulling all the strings, so we have to keep cutting back to her talking to her assistant in order, so that we know that she's doing all of these things and trying to sabotage she's trying to kill the Thunderbolts, like the team, that she's part of it. We have to show her saying that she's part of it over and over and over, and then when one plan fails, we have to cut back to her and her telling her assistant, okay, well, that plan failed, enact phase 2 of the plan. Enact the backup plan. And that's how half this movie feels. And I feel like that is my negative of this movie. It is a very big negative, but I think that's my negative of this movie. It's that it wants to be the Avengers, but it decides to spend half of its plot on a Nick Fury, Colby Smulders side character, two-person side character, as opposed to focusing all of their attention on the 5 main characters in this movie and their depression. Now, it does obviously go into Yelena's depression, and you get to know about Yelena as a character, and I think that the movie, it just ekes past being bad to being good, because Yelena and Florence Pugh is so good that it almost, that it pushes it over into the I liked this movie category. I think the idea that this is a Marvel movie that is all about punching and superheroes, and, it's a movie that focuses most of its time talking about depression, I think that it's a very, it's a bold move. It's a bold move in the way that Eternals was a bold move. I think that Eternals is a good movie. It's not a good Marvel movie, because it doesn't feel interconnected into the world. It just feels like you're watching something else. It could have easily have been something else. You take out a couple of lines of dialogue, and it could be literally just its own movie about something else. And in that way, I feel like even though Eternals, as a Marvel movie, is a very bold choice, it's a bold, different kind of Marvel movie, I don't think it works as a Marvel movie. I feel like this movie is very obviously a Marvel movie because of all of the characters, but it's not a Marvel movie in the way that it goes so far into being sad and talking about depression, and from the get-go just being very, very serious. There are jokes in this movie, obviously, but it is a very heavy, serious movie. It is a very serious movie talking about very big topics that'll probably affect how you view this movie. If you are the kind of person that is very in touch with like your depression, as I am, this movie is going to hit you very well. And you're going to like relate to a lot of the things that are in this movie. But I know that there are some people in this world, even though we are all depressed people, there are some people in this world that are not in touch with any of their depression, that are the kind of person that would be like, oh yeah, I get sad sometimes, but I'm a very happy person. I'm very like, and you're just going to watch. And if that's who you are and you don't do, like well with depression, or you don't do well with like sadness, or other people's sadness, I guess that's like an empathy thing as well. And if you are not that kind of person, you're just going to watch this movie and be like, like, why is everybody sad all the time? Why don't you just be happy? In the same way that like, I feel like I remember before I got into a relationship and I read Twilight and I thought it was like the greatest book alive. I completely related to Bella. I was a very sad person. All of her like depression in Twilight was so great. And I was like, this is the greatest book. And I understand why everybody feels like this. It's so good. And then I got a girlfriend and tried to read the second book. And I was like, why is she sad all the time? What the fuck is wrong with her? Like, get a life, man. Like, stop being sad about Edward leaving. Like, be happy that like now you found this like new guy. He seems so great. Why are you still sad about Edward? You stop being a bitch. Like that's, so like, I feel like depending on where you are in your depression meter and empathizing with characters that are depressed, where 4 out of the 5 characters in this movie are very depressive people, that is going to also affect your watching of this movie. I think that I like that it's trying to be different. I think that it's very much like an Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think it's the most, like they did that jokey trailer about how it's an A24. They tried to do it the A24 style trailer, where they just like did a bunch of like, like from the director of Minari and, or from the second producer of Everything Everywhere All at Once, like they did that trailer. This is the most like A24 movie in the same way that Eternals is a very A24 movie. It's a movie where even though there is zaniness and wackiness everywhere in this movie, it is a very like indie kind of Marvel movie. It's very like character driven. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of like conversational pieces. There's a lot of, like monologuing. And it's not all just like kicking and punching. The kicking and punching is almost the least interesting part of this movie. It's not that kind of movie. And it's about like the interpersonal like demons of each of these characters and how they feel about their lives. And by characters, I really mean like Yelena and Red Guardian and kind of John Walker, but somehow not Ghost. Ava from Ant-Man and the Wasp, she's not in this movie a lot. She doesn't have a lot to do, and I think that's very sad. There is a device that when you meet Bob, there is a device that happens, and I think the fact that Ghost never utilizes that device is a very big missed opportunity. Like, we don't really need a lot more of, Winter Soldier and like his past, but like, I would have also liked that there too, or Red Guardian, and it doesn't happen. And I feel like they cut those scenes so that they could give Valentina and her assistant something to do, like going to the candy store and buying some candy and realizing that they don't have enough change in their pockets and they have to go ask somebody for change. This is not a scene in the movie, but I'm saying like, that's how it feels every time it cuts back to them. And it's just like, when you really think back to the movie, it's just like, why don't I know more about Ghost? And it's like, oh, well, you know, like they didn't have time. And it's like, oh, they did have time, but they spent all of that time with Valentina. This is a 2-hour movie. It's not even an hour and a half. Like if it was a tight 90, you could kind of understand they didn't have enough time. But this is a 2-hour movie. It feels long at a certain point. And then you get out of this movie and you're like, wait, how come I don't know more about Ghost? Why don't I feel more for, you know, like this character? Why don't I feel more for this character? I 90% of all my feelings and all my heart and all my soul is Yelena. And she works. And it's like the best part of this movie. But it's like, but how come I don't feel anything for John Walker? How come I don't feel anything for Ghost? And it's like, oh, because the movie doesn't spend enough time with them. It doesn't spend enough time with with their kind of depression. If all of these characters are depressed, and it's very obvious that all of these characters are depressed, there is a device in this movie that should be tapped into every single character, every single main character. And the fact that they don't do it is baffling to me. I think that this movie, in what it tries to do, is good enough. But it could have been great. And I wanted it to be great. And it's a movie that, like, if Yelena is the only character you care about, I think this will be one of your favorite movies of the MCU ever. Because Yelena is the one character that from beginning to end, from literally opening, beginning to end, she has a full character arc, and everybody else has like a character hump. Like that's the easiest way to describe it. They fully dive into like all of Yelena, like as if she is the only main character in this ensemble movie. It's an ensemble movie, and the movie treats it like it's a Yelena-focused movie. Like it could have just been called The White Widow. Like it could have just been a sequel to Black Widow with all these other characters, and then the next movie is Thunderbolts, right? This movie could have easily have been titled White Widow. And it would just be the same movie and just title it White Widow. If that's all you wanted to do, like you just wanted to like dive head first into Yelena, like, and make that movie, then you did. And it's about White Widow. I believe that's what she's called in the comics. But you know, like Yelena bringing together all of these other people and creating a team in the same way that Harley Quinn and the Emancipation of One, or the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, was not a Birds of Prey movie. It is a Harley Quinn movie. Oh my God. I can't believe I just thought about that right now. Sometimes I prep a lot of these thoughts, and that was not one that I was going to compare it to. But it's literally Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. It is not a Birds of Prey movie because you don't know about most of those characters, except for like a couple of lines of dialogue. Just enough to let you know, but it is very much a Harley Quinn movie. This is very much a Yelena movie. Oh God. I would have been so mad if I ended this video with that, and then if I like connected that like 30 minutes from now. But yes, that's what this movie is. This movie is Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. This is Thunderbolts and the Emancipation of One Yelena Belova. That's what this movie is. It is a Yelena movie that just happens to also have a team. I think it's still good. I do think that it's still good. I think that it is obviously much better than Brave New World. I think that it is much better than Thor: Love and Thunder. I think it is the grittier version of of Brave New World. Brave New World was billed as like this gritty, you know, return to form, you know, Winter Soldier espionage movie, and this is that movie. That was not that. That was a very fantastical movie. This is a very gritty Winter Soldier, you know, type movie. But it feels like comparing it to bad MCU does this movie a disservice in the way that I feel like, even just on its own, I feel like it should have been better. I feel like all you needed to do was not focus your attention so much on Valentina and instead focus it on literally everybody else. James Gunn, The Suicide Squad is the best, like James Gunn, Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy. Both of those are team-up movies. Both of those are movies where you don't know any of the characters going into the movie, in the same way that a lot of people would probably not know most of the characters that go into this movie. But at the end of those movies, you care about more than whoever you started that movie with. In Guardians of the Galaxy, you start that movie with Star-Lord, but by the end of the movie, you understand Drax, and he's funny. You understand, like, "We are Groot" is such a good line. You understand a little bit more of Gamora. You understand about Rocket Raccoon. Maybe not to the extent of Guardians 3, but like you care about all of these characters. In James Gunn's Suicide Squad, you start the movie with Deadshot. You know Harley Quinn, and I guess you start the movie with the team, and you know Harley Quinn, and then the team gets killed, and then And so you start the movie with Harley Quinn, and you know Harley Quinn, and then it resets, and then it starts with Deadshot, and you get Deadshot, or it's not even Deadshot. It's not. Will Smith was Deadshot. Who was he in? Who was the guy in James Gunn Suicide Squad? Was he also Deadshot? He wasn't also Deadshot. Idris Elba, whoever Idris Elba was. But like you also have Peacemaker, right? You get to know Peacemaker. You get to know King Shark. You get to know Ratcatcher, and then Ratcatcher has her own cool like Ratcatcher with Ratcatcher 2 moment. And then you get to know like Polka Dot Man and his thing with his mom. You get to know each of these characters because it spends time with each of these characters. I messaged my girlfriend and I said the Valentina thing, like the amount that it cuts back, the Valentina thing feels very much like in James Gunn's Suicide Squad when they kept cutting back to Harley Quinn having the relationship with the dictator. Except in that movie, even though that part of the movie dragged the movie down, because like everything that's happening with the Suicide Squad is very interesting, every time it cuts back to her relationship with this dictator, it slows the movie down. But the payoff to that, when she just murders everybody in this very colorful way, like that payoff was so good. There is no payoff with the Valentina stuff that you don't automatically see coming a mile ahead. Like it's just there, what almost feels like just to eat up time and to take time away from the characters that they should have been focusing on. Again, like it might sound like I dislike this movie. It's just that part, the amount of screen time that Valentina has bothers me so much that if they just changed that and focused on Ghost and Red Guardian and like you can like give less screen time to Bucky because we get Bucky. There's been enough Bucky stuff. But you know, like if you refocus onto Ghost, Ava, right? If you refocus all of your attention on all of these other characters, on Bob, if you refocus all of your screen time to all of these characters and take it away from Valentina, I think this movie would have been a 10 out of 10. And I think that it's like a 7 out of 10. Like if I had to give it a number score, I think it's a 7 out of 10. I still think it's good, but it could have been great. It could have been Marvel's answer to James Gunn's Suicide Squad. And I think that it's not. It's still good. It's still fine. It's still better than a lot of the like quote unquote bad MCU movies. It's still, you know, it's good, but it bothers me that it could have been amazing.